What's happening, guys? It's Ben with Tactical Nutrition, freshly shaved, ready to go. And we're cutting through the matrix, the propaganda. This is a simple, straight to nutrition video. I hope help you guys out. It's kind of basics, but you got to master the basics. A lot of people get too complicated too quickly. There's a lot of aspects to nutrition that you can look at, but if you don't know the basics about your macros, carbohydrates, fat, protein, you're going to have a hard time creating a diet that works for you and making it work for your fitness and your health and your longevity and all that. Anyway, in this video, I'm focusing on carbs. So it's going to be short. I've got a lot of stuff to do today, so I need to get this video done. But what are the best sources of carbs? So the answer to that will vary. First of all, what is a carb? Well, carbohydrate, right? You can dissect that into two, carbo and hydrate. So carbo, carbon, hydrate, H2O. So that's why if you see CHO, that means carbohydrate. That's just a prefix for carbohydrate, aka carbs. So what are carbohydrates? They break down into sugar. That's basically what it comes down to. Different sources of carbs will have different nutrients with them. We'll get into that in a second. But that's basically what carbohydrates are in the end. It's sugar that fuels your body. Now, that being said, it's the only macronutrient that you actually don't need to eat to survive, right? So there are people that do the carnivore diet and things like that. And if you just eat meat and, animal products, and if you do the carnivore diet as truly as it's supposed to be, where you're eating like organs and liver and intestine and things like that, and meat only, and I know people have done it successfully, you're essentially getting zero carbohydrates. There might be a little bit of glycogen, so to speak, in that muscle, but it's negligible. So the carnivore diet has worked for people. Ketosis is also another basically zero carb diet. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to consume carbs. But as I've said in videos before, for sports performance, carbohydrates are pretty crucial, especially with longer endurance things, cyclists, marathon runners, things like that. You're going to have a hard time being competitive in either of those sports or going for a really long hike, like hiking a 14er in Colorado, for instance, if you're not consuming any carbs. But anyway, I digress. That being said, it's a tool, right? You have to consume protein, you have to consume fat, but you don't have to consume carbs. So what does that mean? You don't have to consume too many carbs. Most people consume too many carbs. That's why they get fat. How does carbohydrate? Now, people may ask this, and I'll just get into this real quick before I get into it. The way that carbohydrates are stored as fat, because why would sugar turn to fat? How does this work? Everything goes through your liver, right? It's metabolized through your liver. Everything in your blood goes through your liver eventually. So what happens is carbohydrates, sugar, they go to the liver, and if it's not being used for fuel, the blood glucose, etc., then it is transported via triglycerides through the body. It's like a little capsule that holds the sugar essentially inside of, or the glucose molecule. I'm simplifying this a little bit, but just so you understand, the triglyceride transports, and the triglyceride is what allows it to enter into the fat cell where it's stored. This is why triglyceride levels are a good indicator of how poor your diet is. High triglycerides means you're consuming essentially too many sugars, right? So that's how that works. So what are the best sources of carbs, right? So I would say what you're looking for is what kind of carb do you need at a certain time? Some things are just simple sugar. Let's just take a soda, for instance, right? High fructose corn syrup. Now, I don't recommend drinking soda, obviously. But if you consume a soda right after you just did a 15-mile bike ride at relatively decent intensity, you're pretty whipped, you're a little worn out, then drinking that soda won't be as bad as if you're sitting on the couch drinking the soda or sitting at your computer drinking soda, because your body is going to uptake those sugars right after the workout. Your body does, it doesn't require, but it would like to have sugar to replace all the stuff that you burned off while you were doing said bike ride, for instance, right? So that being said, though, if you're sedentary, you don't need a lot of sugar, right? The more sedentary you are, the less sugar you need. So those are simple sugars. Those are monoglycerides, right? Yeah. Monosaccharides, right? Yeah. Excuse me. Disaccharides, etc. But glucose, fructose, galactose. Fructose is a disaccharide. You don't need to know that. What I'm saying is simple sugars are going to be absorbed extremely quickly, and because of that can be used extremely quickly for fuel. Now, you wouldn't want to drink soda while you're working out, mainly because of like the carbonation, and just because it's processed sugar. It's not very good. There's no nutrients in the soda. I'm not saying to do that. But many workout supplements that, like the one I use, it's called CR7. That stands for Cristiano Ronaldo, the soccer player. CR7. It has electrolytes in it, but it also has, I believe, I want to say like 20 grams of sugar. And so it's there on purpose. It's not just to make it taste sweet. It's because while you're working out hard, your body requires sugar, or would like to have sugar, what should I say, for maximum performance, right? So you can feel that when you're in a hard circuit workout, right? If you're really low on, if your blood sugar gets low, I've seen it happen at the gym where people almost pass out because their blood sugar is so low and they're doing a high intensity workout, and there's no sugar in their blood, and then your body just basically wants you to sit down and chill. So if you consume those sugars while you're working out, you'll be able to extend out the workout and therefore have a better workout and therefore get better results. Now, that being said, throughout the day, what else do you consume? That's the key thing. You can have a little bit of sugar while you're working out, but when you're just doing your day job, and let's just say you work at a computer, or you work somewhere where you're walking around a little bit, but you're not doing a whole lot, or you're just hanging out by the pool with your friends, or whatever it is you're doing. You're not being very active, right? What kind of carbohydrates do you consume? So I would say potatoes are probably my best choice. Cooked potatoes. The reason is because they fill you up. This is where fiber comes into play, right? So fiber is a carbohydrate, but essentially there's soluble and insoluble fiber. But just for all practical purposes, intents and purposes here, fiber slows the release of the carbohydrate into your bloodstream. That's basically what we're looking for. It also gives you a feeling of fullness so you don't overeat. So potatoes actually have a decent amount of fiber, so they fill you up so you don't eat as much. Now, on the other hand, something like pasta, cooked pasta, right? It does not have a lot of fiber in it, depending on the pasta, but most pastas that people eat, I know, for instance, I could eat a gigantic plate of spaghetti, and still be hungry right afterwards, for sure. Even though I consumed a massive amount of calories. So pasta would be a carbohydrate too, but it doesn't have the fiber, so it releases into your bloodstream quicker, but it also just doesn't leave you feeling full. The same is like with white rice. Brown rice is a little bit better. It's a little harder. It fills you up a little bit more, and it's got a little bit more nutrients to it. White rice, any kind of white carbohydrate, white bread, white rice, etc., is going to be bleached and processed, essentially. So what that does is it wipes out a lot of the nutrition. That being said, I know a lot of bodybuilders that consume white rice just for that reason, that they're trying to get a lot of carbs in. So there's potatoes, then there's fruit, right? Fruit is just good all around because it has a lot of nutrients with it, vitamins, antioxidants, etc., vitamin C, resveratrol, whatever. You want to get a lot of different colors of fruit. Cranberries are going to have different health benefits than blueberries, blackberries, pomegranate, peaches, apples, whatever. But all these things contain carbohydrates. And this is where it gets interesting a little bit, because I've heard a lot of people, overweight people are trying to lose weight, and they're like, well, I don't want to eat a banana because it's got too much sugar. I want to make this clear. You're not overweight because you're eating too much fruit. I can tell you that. This should not come as a surprise. Now, would you want to eat like bowl upon bowl of fruit? Probably not, but most people aren't going to do that. There is a little bit of fiber in that fruit as well, but you're not overweight because of the fruit. You'll probably be overweight because you're eating the white processed, breads, tortillas, things like that. Take Qdoba or a Chipotle, for instance. I like to eat that to gain weight. So if you're trying to lose weight, you probably shouldn't eat what I'm trying to eat to gain weight. And so what happens when you go to Chipotle? You get an entire tortilla. I can't recall how many grams of carbs off the top of my head are in those tortillas. Then they get about a cup of white rice. Then you get like half a cup of pinto beans. When it's all said and done, but plus all the other stuff that they get, the processed cheese at the end or whatever, sour cream, at the end you've got a massive amount of carbs. Way too many. And they're all essentially processed carbs that are going to absorb very quickly, and they're going to spike your your blood glucose levels. So the best sources of carbs are those that have fiber. So just to recap, you can get potatoes. I like just a baked potato, baked yams. Root vegetables are typically good because they have a lot of fiber. Carrots, etc. Beets. That's kind of a weird one, but they're very healthy, but not the best source of carbohydrates, I guess. But potatoes, brown rice. If you're going to get pasta, you can get like vegetable-based pastas, different types of like fiber-enriched pastas. But basically, what you're looking for is carbohydrates that come with nutrition, and not just processed bleached sugar. So anyway, guys, I hope that helps you out a little bit. Maybe just glean a nugget or two. Don't expect these videos to just kind of blow your mind. Just glean a nugget or two. If you see anything you like, if you saw anything you really were interested in, look it up online. There's no excuse for ignorance these days. You can use ChatGPT, whatever. Otherwise, leave in the comments below what you think. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It really helps it grow. It's hard to grow these channels organically. That's all I got for you guys. Peace out.